reasons. 1. They absorb the largest amount of second-hand, unverifiable information. 2. They feel a compelling need to have an opinion on every important question of our time, and thus easily succumb to opinions offered to them by propaganda on all such indigestible pieces of information. 3. They consider themselves capable of judging for themselves. They literally need propaganda. In fact, the need for propaganda on the part of the propagandee is one of the most powerful elements of Ellul's thesis. Cast out of the disintegrating microgroups of the past, such as family, church, or village, the individual is plunged into mass society and thrown back upon his own inadequate resources, his isolation, his loneliness, his ineffectuality. Propaganda then hands him in verifiable abundance what he needs, a raison d'être, personal involvement and participation in important events, an outlet and excuse for some of his more doubtful impulses, righteousness, all factitious to be sure, all more or less spurious, but he drinks it all in and asks for more. Without this intense collaboration by the propagandee, the propagandist would be helpless. Thus, propaganda, by first creating pseudo-needs through pre-propaganda, and then providing pseudo-satisfactions for them, is pernicious. Can wholesome propaganda be made for a wholesome cause? Can democracy, Christianity, humanism be propagated by modern propaganda techniques? Ellul traces the similarities among all propaganda efforts, communist, Nazi, democratic. He thinks that no one can use this intrinsically undemocratic weapon, or rather abandon himself to it unscathed or without undergoing deep transformations in the process. He shows the inevitable unwilled propaganda effects of which the good propagandist is unaware, the fallout from any major propaganda activity and all its pernicious consequences. Most pernicious of all, the process, once fully launched, tends to become irreversible. Ellul critically reviews what most American authors have written on the subject of propaganda and mass media, having studied the literature from Lasswell to Reisman with great thoroughness. Accepting some of their findings, he rejects others, particularly the efforts to gauge the effects of propaganda. Ellul believes that, on the whole, propaganda is much more effective, and effective in many more ways than most American analysis shows. Particularly, he rejects as unrealistic and meaningless all experiments that have been conducted with small groups. Propaganda is a unique phenomenon that results from the totality of forces pressing in upon an individual in his society, and therefore cannot be duplicated in a test tube. To make his many original points, Ellul never relies on statistics or quantification, which he heartily disdains, but on observation and logic. His treatise is a fully integrated structure of thought in which every piece fits in with all the others, be they 100 pages apart. In this respect, his work resembles Schopenhauer's The World as Will and Idea, of which the philosopher said that the reader, really to understand the book, must read it twice, because no page in the book could be fully understood without knowledge of the whole. This procedure can hardly be suggested to the reader in our busy days, but he ought to be warned that to leaf through this book will not suffice. Paul Pickrell in Harper's Magazine said of Ellul's The Technological Society that Ellul, a great man, had written with monumental calm and maddening thoroughness a magnificent book. Ellul's propaganda is no less maddening, monumental, and thorough. What, in Ellul's view, can mankind do? At the end of this book, Ellul reaches neither a pessimistic nor an optimistic conclusion with regard to the future. He merely states that, in his view, propaganda is today a greater danger to mankind than any of the other more grandly advertised threats hanging over the human race. His superanalysis ends with a warning.